Welcome to Just Talking About Jesus. I'm Jan Johnson, a seasoned believer who loves relationships and, just talking about Jesus.
Through adoption, realizing we don't need to just adopt kids, we need to adopt families and start caring for the people who are choosing life, but also choosing to raise their children in really difficult circumstances.
Hey, Brenna, do you know how to follow a show?
I do.
Why would anybody want to follow it instead of just listening to it whenever they found it?
To get notifications.
That's the right answer. That is exactly the right answer.
Because it's the right thing to do.
Because if you push that little plus on there or follow, depending on where you're having your podcasts, then you can get notified as soon as a new episode arrives.
Which is brilliant, honestly, because we all live busy lives and I don't want to miss things. And I will.
Especially you don't want to miss Just Talking About Jesus.
That's right. Do you know that you can also text during the podcast or after the podcast?
Isn't that cool?
That is so cool.
A new feature that they have with Buzzsprout. And so it's right at the top of the show notes, and you can just click on it and it'll send me a little text with what your thoughts are about things. Super easy to do. So I would just love to hear from listeners and know what they were thinking, how they affected it or different thoughts there, maybe how it touched you and whatever. So yeah, give it a try.
Absolutely. You need to do that. We need to hear from you.
Have you been able to look at some of the Substack newsletters that I've sent out?
I have.
What do you think?
I love it. It gives you just enough information that I'm just chomping at the bit to hear I want the whole podcast. I love the information on there. It just gives a little bit more of, okay, that's what this is going to be about.
Yeah. And it's a pretty quick read.
Oh, it's totally quick. It's an easy read, which is helpful, again, in the fast pace we live in.
Yeah. And the links are in there as well. And so it's shareable and whatever. So yeah, if you haven't tried that out, give it a try or let me know. You can find it on Substack at Jan Johnson 3 on Substack. So, all right, give it a try. Hello, friends and listeners. So happy that you're here today. Last week, we heard from May Renfro, a mother of 10 who shared her journey of losing her son to a four-wheeling accident. I cannot even imagine. The sadness and the joy in her unshakable faith. She also shared about homeschooling joys and challenges, something I'm sure some of our listeners could relate to. Each year around Mother's Day, when baby bottles come to your church to collect donations for your local pregnancy resource center, you might be thinking, what else is my church doing to support pregnant women? How could we be more involved in building relationships with women and girls in need of support? Today's podcast is with Kimberly Stone, an advocate for Embrace Grace, a nonprofit that partners with churches and pregnancy resource centers to provide support for women facing unplanned pregnancies. Kimberly discusses her personal journey into the organization, fueled by her own experiences with adoption and her passion for helping single mothers. She highlights the importance of transforming church outreach from being pro-life to pro-love. Listen in and see what kind of things you might be able to do within your own body of believers. Well, I'd like to welcome Kimberly Stone today. Kimberly works with Embrace Grace. I met her at conference, and it just seemed like she'd be a great fit for Just Talking About Jesus. So welcome, Kimberly.
Love it. Thanks so much. Thanks, Jan.
Yeah, finally. Tell me what you do, Embrace Grace. Tell us about it.
So Embrace Grace, our mission started about 14 years ago. The founder of our organization, she was a single mom at one point in her life and found herself in an unexpected pregnancy. And then ended up obviously raising her son. And as her son got older, realized I just didn't feel like I had a place in the church in the season when she was walking through her unexpected pregnancy. And so our ministry was birthed out of that. Our organization was birthed out of a deep desire to see the church mobilized to care for women in unplanned pregnancies. And then, beyond that, women who are raising children alone. And so Embrace Grace really mobilizes the church to start support groups for these women across the country. We have almost 1,200 groups now across the country.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty special, a really special ministry. I work here in the Northwest and West Coast. So I'm trying to help more churches understand what is this ministry? How can we employ it at our church? And so I talk to people in Idaho and Washington and Oregon and California. That's kind of sometimes Montana too. So that's the region where I'm trying to help our organization grow and for churches to understand their role. Our founder calls it not pro-life, but pro-love. So really mobilizing the church to care for these women when they're choosing life, because that's what we're standing for. We understand, what we believe about life, but what are we doing about it? And I think the church has always kind of fallen short there, mostly out of uncertainty of what to do.
Mhm.
How do we come alongside these women? What is our role? What can we do? Because I think we really understand what we believe. We just don't know what to do. So,
Right. Yeah, agreed.
yeah, yeah.
So are you involved? So you're not under Right to Life? You're actually a separate organization then?
Yeah, we're a nonprofit.
Mhm.
We work with Right to Life. We work with, particularly in every state, we work with a lot of the bigger organizations that are working for the state. And we partner with a lot of Stand for Life and a lot of these other organizations that are doing different work. But we definitely work with a lot of those. And we work with pregnancy resource centers a lot.
Yeah.
So we partner with pregnancy resource centers to really help their clients find a support group in their local communities.
So that's really your biggest emphasis is working with the churches.
Yeah. The churches and then the pregnancy resource centers, connecting them with the different local churches. A support group that a church decides to run is about 12 weeks long. And so we are helping those churches get those started, continue activating those. And we've created curriculum, obviously, all the tools Embrace Grace has created. And then the church gets to employ those in their local communities. Yeah.
Are you working with dads too?
Yeah, we have 3 curriculums. We have a Embrace Grace curriculum, which is for single women who are in an unexpected pregnancy. And then we have Embrace Life curriculum, which is for single moms. And then Embrace Legacy, which is for single dads, or sometimes the dads that are connected but not married yet to these women are then going to get to be a part of Embrace Legacy. A
I
lot of times churches, they don't necessarily have all 3 groups starting at once.
Right.
But once they get traction, they realize, gosh, there's so many different ways we can be reaching and serving our community and the needs that these people have.
So walk me through how that would actually work. Let's say my church wanted to be involved with that. What would be the steps to
Mm.
working through that?
Yeah, we want to help the church identify a leader who's going to lead this group. So sometimes I work with pastors and it's them then identifying leaders, but sometimes it's people who have a heart and they are already a part of the church. And so sometimes it just depends. If we're educating pastors, then their job is maybe to find a leader. But if we've already identified a leader, then that leader would come to us and they would help obviously find some other volunteers to help with the ministry. But they would come to us and there's paperwork. Obviously, we want people to be committed and things. And then there's some training that they do at their own pace, but we want to give them the best tools and the best way to have success. So then there's some training and then they really start their group and activate their group. And in the meantime, we're connecting with the pregnancy resource centers in their areas and they're connecting with the staff there to say, hey, we have a support group. Here's the time, here's the day, here's the church. And hopefully we can really get some traction and have girls start coming to group. So
So
the class,
it's really the girls are finding these groups through the Pregnancy Resource Center.
Yeah, and sometimes it's word of mouth. I have girls that come to my group and they're in a tight knit community and they have friends who get pregnant and it spreads pretty quickly once a group has started and is doing the right things in the community and really helping people. So it spreads word of mouth, but also, yeah, we do rely on the pregnancy resource centers to just help us find these women too, because sometimes that's the struggle. But I've also worked with social workers, maybe even at our hospitals, at our local hospitals, who have women come in and are pregnant and need some support. So it really is, it's the gamut and it depends on the leader. How much time do they have to be working and networking in their community? Some leaders are so passionate about it that they're making connections everywhere.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is just the pregnancy resource centers and the clients that are coming from there.
So in your office, who works with you? How many people are working with you and what are their roles?
Yeah. So for me, I'm a remote. So our headquarters are in Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of where Embrace Grace started. It was in Texas. And most of our staff, there's a staff, I don't know how many, I think it's close to 30 now.
Okay.
And then I'm one of the very few remote workers. So I work on my own, but we have a really awesome staff and I'm connected to them often. But yeah, I'm up here Lone Rangering it in the Northwest.
Well, nice to have somebody
Yeah.
that's in this area. How did you get started in this?
So my story is, so we've adopted both of our kids. So over a decade ago, even longer now, we kind of were feeling like the Lord was calling us to adopt. And in that process, we just realized there's so many people out there that choose to parent because we would meet birth moms and then they would choose to parent. And then we realized they don't have the resources and help and community around them. So
Mhm.
that just birthed in us just a desire to help more women. Maybe we weren't going to adopt a lot of children, but maybe we could help other families. And so that just opened our eyes to the need, I guess. And then, so I looked for work. I kind of left my career and looked for work in nonprofits
Mhm.
who helped women in unplanned pregnancies and found myself on the board for a maternity home
Mhm.
here in Spokane. And we were a home that housed homeless teenage moms. So we were housing girls anywhere from 14 to 19 who were either pregnant or had had their babies and they didn't have housing. So we were providing that for these girls. And in that process, I worked with that organization for almost 7 years, realized that what is the church doing? But some of these girls started going to an Embrace Grace support group. And it
Okay.
was the first time I had heard of Embrace Grace. And I just watched this community of church people come around all these girls that were living in our home and provide like another layer of care and love for them. And I just, fell in love with Embrace Grace and
Yeah.
worked my way into a job at Embrace Grace because I realized we aren't very saturated here in the Northwest. There's
Right.
great opportunities for the church to do something. My husband had been a pastor for almost 17 years, and I always felt like we were just missing it as a church. We didn't have the tools to know what to do. So
Yeah.
then So that's kind of my story through adoption, realizing we don't need to just adopt kids, we need to adopt families and start caring for the people who are choosing life, but also choosing to raise their children in really difficult circumstances. We watched women who, in some ways, were forced to parent. They wanted to make an adoption plan, but in the state of Oregon and Washington, it's really difficult because the birth dads have a lot of say. And so we would watch women become parents because birth dads weren't willing to sign and they weren't willing to help either.
Yeah.
But these women all of a sudden became single moms who needed people to come around them. So we've built some great relationships over the years, and that's just spearheaded my passion to get more people involved
Mhm.
and to see if the church can help a little bit better and not be quite so loud with our words, but more in action, I would say.
Can you share any stories from the women that you've been involved with?
Yeah, I would love to. So the one that comes to mind, and I love to talk about her because she's someone who would never step foot in a church, heard through a couple different people about Embrace Grace. And the great thing is our pregnancy resource center here, if a girl is willing, they say, hey, here's a support group, but could I have this leader reach out to you? So this girl was willing to have me reach out, and it took a lot of conversations, even over the phone, to get her to class.
Yeah.
I was super hesitant and came to class the first night. I mean, just looking to be rejected. That's her storyline. And so in some ways did everything she could to be rejected that first night. Didn't make it easy, but I knew God brought her there. And so she actually continued to come, and I built a relationship with her. And about 5 or 6 weeks into class, because I should say every week at class, we talk about their identity and we talk about Jesus. So she's hearing the gospel every week, and she's telling me with a lot of expletives what she thinks about the gospel, which I'm like, I love it. Come be yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to be offended by you, and Jesus isn't going to be offended by you. So you come. So she would keep coming in. By about the 6th class, I just looked her in the eyes and I was like, why do you keep coming?
Yeah.
Why do you keep coming to class? Because, she just has chips on her shoulder about everything. And she just looked at me and she was pretty quiet for a second. And then she said, something's drawing me here. And my spirit is just rejoicing because I'm like, well, we know what's drawing you here. I don't tell her that, but I was just so grateful for her honesty. I mean, she told me, she goes, oh, my boyfriend asks me every week, why do you go to that stupid class? And she even told him, I don't know, something's drawing me here. So she continued to come for the whole class. At the end of the class, we throw a baby shower. So that's kind of one thing that we do that's unique. We have this support group, and then at the end, the whole church collectively can give to a baby shower that we're going to throw for all the girls on the same day they've come to class.
Yeah.
And so she came to this baby shower, barely. We had to get her there, And she came in and, she was wearing one of her craziest outfits yet, because that's just, that's who she is. And
Yeah.
I think that's honestly, that's how she protects herself. If they're going to reject me, then I'm going to give them a reason to. And we didn't. And so she walked into this baby shower, hundreds of gifts on her table and the other girl from this semester. And she was just stunned. I think she was stunned. She'd never felt this kind of love, generosity, and care for her and her son. So it was a really beautiful thing. And to this day, we keep in touch. She hasn't come to know Jesus yet, but she's definitely softened to the kind of relationships that she's willing to have in her life. And I'm like, that is such a win for me, that she's inviting me and my family to her son's birthday party and that we can be a part of her life.
Wow.
It's a really beautiful thing. And I think these are just all seeds that God's using to soften her heart and bring her to him, and hopefully change a generation of families too, because she comes from such a difficult line of generations. And I'm we just want to love her.
Yeah.
And I loved watching her change over the semester. Again, I think we all want the radical stories. I don't have any of the girls that have ever been in my class. I don't have radical stories, but I have like a million little things that I feel like God's doing as people are obedient and look to be receptive to people that don't look like them and that have really difficult stories and are raising their babies really different than how I raised my children.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if we're open and we're willing to care for them, then you just can't help but see God use that in their lives.
Yeah.
We have another girl that's come, and she's a part of our church now. And she comes to our church, and her and her baby, and people are always passing her baby around on Sundays, because everybody loves her and everybody loves her baby.
Yeah.
So, and I know in Texas, the culture of Texas, sometimes they have groups of 10 to 20 girls a semester.
Wow.
I can't even imagine, because we usually have 2 or 3.
Yeah. 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 So what does your curriculum cover?
It's a lot of, so the Embrace Grace curriculum is a lot more about shame, identity, where they're headed, how God's obviously given them this baby. This is his plan for them at this time. They can be a good mom. So it's a lot more theory wrapped around the gospel, who they are. There's a night where we just talk about strongholds in their life. What are things? And, in some ways try to flesh that out for them. So it's nothing super practical. Embrace Grace isn't, whereas our Embrace Life curriculum is very practical. It's helping them navigate real world, being a mom, making friends, how to budget, things like that.
Yeah.
That's a little more practical, where Embrace Life would be more like we're studying different scriptures every week and talking to them about how that meets them where they're at in their season of life. So that's Embrace Grace. Then Embrace Life is for the single moms and more practical. And then Embrace Legacy is for the dads.
Yeah.
And that kind of is a mix of both.
I see. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your testimony?
Yeah. My testimony, well, it's ever changing, right? I feel like, man, we're always being changed by the Lord. But I grew up in a Christian family. My parents were first generation Christians. So we went to a Lutheran church a lot of our life growing up. And I never had a hard heart toward Jesus. Thank God. I mean, I can't believe it. I just felt like I believed what people told me. I read the Bible and I felt like this is true. There is someone who died on the cross for my sins and the sins of the world. And so I believed from a very young age that Jesus is my savior. He saved me and wanted to tell other people about him. So that's been a part of my life. I can't even tell you the day that probably sounds weird, but the day that I really came to know Jesus, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think my mom would tell you that she maybe knew, but I don't know. And so then, in high school, led a lot of like outreaches and things for my classes that I was in. It was called First Priority, was the group that I was a part of, and loved that. And then it was called Western Baptist College in Salem. It's now called Corbin University, but it was Western Baptist College when I went, and got married after I got out of college, and my husband was a pastor. So then we did ministry for about 17 years. And in that time, that's where God changed me so much when we adopted our kids.
Yeah.
I just felt like the
Kids
world
do
was
that anyway.
Oh my God. Well, yeah. And then I'm raising my kids, and I just feel like you have broken me down on every level.
How old are your kids now?
So they're 11 and almost 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I homeschool them. So, man, they do break me down. Let me tell you.
Homeschool gig. That's a whole nother gig.
Yeah. Anyways, so that adoption just opened my world to in fact, I should tell you how we came to adopt our son. So we were in the adoption process with a company called Bethany Christian Services, and we lived in California at the time. And I also had a blog at that time in my life because I was a wedding photographer. So I had shared that we are adopting. But usually how adoption works is the agency shows birth parents like a profile about your family, and then birth parents pick the adoptive parents. At some point you get chosen. And so we figured, well, that'll be us. But I'd shared it on my blog. And through that process, a few different people came out of the woodwork that we thought, oh my gosh, like one girl was pregnant and she knew me from Facebook from, a decade ago, and reached out, and we thought we were going to adopt her baby. But that was a situation where the boyfriend was unwilling. So she's a single mom. And then we had this random thing come through my blog, kind of like an email saying, we have a child and we might need to place him for adoption. And so then we were in Oregon during that week, and they were in Oregon. So we ended up meeting them on her due date. They have a really hard story. DHS was a part of their story. So they'd already had a child taken from them and lost all their privileges to parent. And so they knew that when this little guy was going to be born, that he would be taken into custody, to state custody. So they reached out to us kind of in a desperate attempt to maybe figure out if there would be something else. So we met them outside their really worn down house and a picnic table. It was like an out of body experience.
Yeah.
Because there was no Bethany Christian Services wasn't in Oregon. There was no mediator. So all of a sudden we were in this relationship with people we had no idea who they were, what their story was, but they had reached out to us. So we just prayed a lot about it. Parker was born 8 days later. We had gone back to California. They asked us to come when he was born. They said, we don't know. We don't know if we're going to make an adoption plan, but if we do, we would choose you guys. So they asked us to come back and said, just come back to the town. Don't come to the hospital or anything. So we came to town, and then right away they said, come to the hospital. We want Kimberly up there while she's in labor.
Oh,
So I end up being at the hospital.
and you're having all kinds of feelings.
What is happening? I mean, I look at it as, those times in your life where you just know the Spirit has like put you in a place and he's kind of blinded your eyes to probably the chaos of it. Because people looking in felt like it was a really chaotic experience. I didn't. And so but it was one of those times where I felt like God was just working in a lot of people's stories that brought us all together. And so she gave birth. Parker was born. They chose at that time to still say, we don't know what we're going to do, but can you stay in the nursery with him because we can't be with him?
Praying like crazy.
People were praying. We were praying because we honestly, if they could be able to be his parents and that's what they really wanted, that honestly, we were like, that's not for us, but we've been called to whatever's happening right now. And so we would be with him in the nursery. We would see them every once in a while. She ended up, it was a 3-day process because she had ended up having a C-section. So DHS was like, we'll give you 3 days to decide, like, is he going to go into foster care? Or are you going to make an adoption plan? You have 3 days. So they kind of vacillated the whole time. And he was born on a Tuesday morning, and then Friday afternoon, Sabrina, she called me up to her room and she said, I'm going to ask you to be his mom. And it was the most sacred thing that's ever happened to me in my life. I felt like, wow. Just, yeah.
Yeah.
An immense heartbreak. I mean, you're walking through this is not what they wanted for their life. And there's some sad circumstances around all of it, but also seeing how God's really had his hand on our son in the season of all the things he was exposed to and what happened and how God just really you just see how God works without our trying to control and move everything around. So that really helped me understand a little more of like God's sovereign and he can do whatever he wants and he'll get people where he wants them. And we don't have to be the people that decide all the chess moves.
Yeah.
So it was a big walk of faith, I guess, like increased our faith in that season.
Wow. Just wow, huh?
Yeah. To this day, it's one of those stories. And as we've watched him grow, he's just this really sweet, special kid. Everyone says that about their kids, but you just knowing like what his story is just makes me in awe of how God works and preserves people and their stories and his like really intentional care for people. So that was awesome. And we've grown a lot in the last, my story. I've gone through seasons of anxiety and great depression, and I found God in the dark nights of the soul too, where you doubt a lot and wonder if he cares. And come out on the other side, knowing he does care. And actually more than that, he carries me and I don't have to be the one that gets myself out of the pits even. So
because a lot of times I think that's our responsibility.
and then we carry like all the shame because we think now I'm in this pit and now I have all this shame of being in this pit and not getting out. I mean, the Christian life can be very confusing.
What would you tell to a mom who was in a situation of not sure about wanting her baby or what to do, what would you want to share with her?
That is such a good question. I think really listen to what her fears are. Like, what are you most scared of? And and as you hear what her fears are, help her not make decisions based on the fears. And because that's not a good place for any of us, you know. And so I think spending a lot of time hearing her story and listening to what she's afraid of, and then empowering her to make decisions that are opposite of the fear so
Mm.
that she can walk into a good life. Even if she doesn't know Jesus, like the good life is always brave and courageous, you know, and that there's good things on the other side of what we're scared of. I'm preaching to myself.
I know.
Yeah. But these women, but like the biggest, the biggest motivator, to be honest, for abortion is fear. That's why people get abortions, because there's so much fear wrapped around the next season of their life and what that is. And so if we can like be sounding boards for fear, I just think that's a great place for women who are in these situations.
Yeah. Yeah. Good advice. What would you say to the person that's listening who would be interested in trying to start a group like this in their church?
Hmm. Definitely reach out to us. We would love to just hear your story. I love hearing about church communities because that gives a good picture of like what's the opportunity here, you know? What could happen? And so understanding like their church and their stories of their community are really important. But yeah, reach out to me. I would love to have the conversation. And it's one of those things that God brings it all together. And it's a commitment because that's, you know, and take sacrifice. That's what ministry is. That's life. But really, when God calls us to something, he gives us the energy and passion to follow through. So, but I'd just love to talk to them. I would
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. Well, I'll put your website as a link in the show notes. Anything else
Yay.
you'd like me
Okay.
to link?
I think if you just do that, and I mean, you have my email or my phone number, people get a hold of me that way too. But really, if you go to embracegrace.com, there's a form that people fill out all the time that are just, even if you're remotely interested, you'll just get to see some more of our resources up close and, you know, see if that's a good fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm anxious to share this with people. And I think I will save the video of this as well to be able to share with our
Awesome.
local pregnancy resource center.
And I'm so grateful that you made time for this because it is just every little place that we can just lend
Yeah.
and bend an ear to our mission, how God might, you know, perk interest in someone else is awesome.
Great. Well, Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us. I am so
Thank
glad to know
you.
about this and all this information, and I wish you the best.
Thanks so much, Jan. It's so good to see you today, and hopefully we'll get some warmer summer weather. Well, you're a blessing. Thank you so much. Okay, awesome.
Thank
Awesome.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Perhaps it made you think of the possibility of doing something like this in your church. And if you're already doing it, send me a quick text telling me how it's going and any interesting stories. Links are in the show notes for Kimberly's website and how you can get more information. And if you have a story to tell, or just a topic you're interested in talking about, text me. Let me know. That link is at the top of the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. And now Jeremiah 1:4-5 from the Message version. Before I shaped you in the womb, I knew all about you. Before you saw the light of day, I had holy plans for you. Until next time.